We're going to talk about the fantasy basketball waiver wire. Michael Bolton, have you got any additional thoughts?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and they call me LeBron James because I'm the GOAT at lying. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Go ahead and win your first $5 bet, and you can win $150 in bonus bets. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com, and you can find yourself the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. LockedOnDaily.com. Double banging over here. Hit the thumb. Subscribe, of course, and leave your comments down below. And why am I lying? Because I did say to you, and I did tweet this out, and I did post, and I said, we're not going to do a waiver wire show today. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to do it. But I am. Why? Because what I thought that I was doing would take longer than it. I thought I had to go make well, you know what? That part of it, you don't need to know what I need to do. I had to just make it with some health-related stuff, and I thought it would be taking longer to happen. It did not, so I am here, and we're getting the show out. So there you go. Bonus. A little bit of a surprise. And if you do like surprises, you can hit the thumb on this video, and you can share it out to people, which would be sick. Awesome. Great. Fantastic. Let's go in. I don't have as much time to waffle around because, again, stuff happened this morning. Everything's fine. Don't worry. Everything's good. We're talking waiver wire here, and we are looking at just the things that we normally do on a waiver wire show. So let's just start with the most added players and see what sort of information we can get out of that. On the Basketball Monster metric, the advanced roster percentage metric, the most added player is the Dancing Bear, Guerschon Yabusele. I get it. There is no Andre Drummond. There is no old mate Joel Embiid still. Caleb Martin's sort of in and out. Paul George is missing the game today on a back-to-back. Yabusele is fine. It's not a long-term thing. He's not an unbelievable option, but sure, go for it. Whatever. Brandin Podziemski, also the second most added player. He was back in the starting lineup. I think he's going to stay there for the foreseeable future. We'll see how long this foreseeable future actually lasts. Again, not someone that I'm going to put a huge amount of stock into, but that's okay to add him. On Yahoo, the most added player is one of the biggest chasers I've seen, and that is Mo Wagner. And he was awesome last game, and I've got actually no problem with streaming in Mo Wagner, but it was because Goga sprained his ankle in the warm-up, and they went with Mo in the blowout over Wendell Carter down the stretch because they needed to keep those guys and get that scoring back, because if they lost by more than 37 points, I believe it was, against the Knicks, they were at risk of not making the knockout round of the NBA Cup, which I'm going to talk about in a second. I'll talk more about it in the daily preview show later on, but we'll talk about the NBA Cup soon. The second most added player on Yahoo is Jaime Jaquez Jr., who replaced Jimmy Butler in the last game and put up good numbers, and as long as Butler is out, no problem with using Jaquez, but that's the thing. Like Butler, we don't even know whether he's out. So that could be one of those ones where he had that big game. He'd been bad nearly all season. He had a big game in the last one, and then if Butler comes back and plays this one, what does he play? 20 minutes? So I think that probably doesn't work particularly well there with Jaquez. The most added player on Fantrax is Vasilije Micic, and last game was really bad for him. I still maintain that he is a hold for now, but if they go and split the minutes with him and KJ Simpson again, then he'll be a drop. That's what he is. He was a guy that while LaMelo and Trey Mann were out, I grabbed in all spots. Me grabbing someone in all spots does not mean that I have faith in them long term at all. That's not what any of that means. When I say that he is the guy that I went and grabbed him, it's because I did, and it's because I thought there was an opportunity to get 6+ assists for a long period of time. Actually, not even a long period of time, for a period of time. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We are talking waiver wire scenarios here, and you just move on from that. So I've added Micic, as I've said many times. I will drop him if they go and split the minutes with KJ in the next one. I don't know that that'll happen. I'm okay with some of the deficiencies in Micic's game. I think his shooting is going to improve, but this is not a long-term solution, like at all. At all. It's a short-term move. And the second most added play, which is very weird to me, it is the pimple, Derek Whitehead. And that is, cool. Like, I actually do think Whitehead's got some ability, but he's also in that troubling area where he's a top high school recruit who had a disappointing college season and fell in the draft, and the track record of those guys being good, Scalabissiere, Nasir Little, Cam Reddish, is very, very bad. It is very bad. I'm sure there is somebody that you'll point to that was a very high school recruit, fell in the draft, and then turned out good. Off the top of my head, I'm only thinking of the bad ones, but there's got to be a good one out there. Maybe it can be Whitehead. The injuries have really killed him for 2 years. So we hope he's all right. We hope he's ready to go. I don't really... Adding any Nets player at the moment doesn't feel like it's going to be a winning proposition because it seems to be either him or it's Keon or it's Shake or it's Jalen Wilson or it's Zaire Williams or it's Tyrese Martin or it's... I'm waiting for the Jackie Tway. Like, once we get a Jackie Tway, then I'm going to laugh my ass off. It's going to be fantastic. We'll see whether that's what they decide to do or not. Let's look at the most dropped players. The number one most dropped player is Najee Marshall. Makes sense. All the players are back in Dallas except for him, and he was putting up good numbers while players were out, and we move on. That's easy done, easy said. The second most dropped player, which I think might end up reversing course, is old mate Milk Dollop Ty Jerome. Yeah, because we knew that what Jerome was doing had absolutely no basis in reality. He wasn't going to get 3 steals a game. He wasn't going to shoot 58% on threes or whatever he was shooting, 60% on mid-ranges. It wasn't going to happen. But now we've got Darius Garland in the concussion protocol, and that's going to open up an opportunity for Jerome. Will Jerome start? I'm not sure that he will. I think they could put Karis LeVert into that role, but irrespective of if it's LeVert or if it's Merrill or if it's Jerome, all of them are going to get more playing time, and Jerome has been playing really well. Again, what he was doing was completely unrelatable. Unrelatable? That's not the right word. Unreliable, and you couldn't project it to be like that. But if he is a 25-minute player, we're more interested. But dropping him was 100% the correct move, and now if Garland is out, I don't know that yet, you can consider it. On Yahoo, the 2 most dropped players are Quentin Grimes. Yes, very... Should we just blanket jack these guys?
Get that cabbage out of here.
What's a blanket jack? Something you do at the movies. Get Quentin Grimes out of here. And then other one is Musa Diabate, who was putting up some pretty solid numbers, but now we've got Big Dick Nick Richards back. We've got Mark Williams back. We're going to have Miles Bridges back soon. We've got Tijan Salam playing pretty well. And there is just no reason to have Diabate on a 12-team or a 10-team or probably a 14-team league roster. On Fantrax, the most dropped player is Alfred Payton because, yep, his actual real-life team dropped him as well. What an absolutely wild situation that was. Came in, started, played big minutes, got 21 assists, and a week later he's gone. And the next most dropped player is Isaiah Stewart, which he was putting up some good numbers on some unsustainable blocks, and now he's not, so you move on. And if the numbers push back up and if the minutes become more of a split, then you can go back and do it again. But at the moment, that's not where we're at, and that's cool. We're going to come back and we're going to look at some must roster, some droppable players, some hot players, all the other waiver wire stuff we need to do. But today's episode is brought to you by Chime. Yes, Chime, you are here in the holiday season. It is December, and you need to be making sure you're taking full control of your finances because it's almost inevitable that you're going to spend more than you usually do during the holidays. But you've got to make sure you're keeping that under control, and that's where Chime can come in. Chime helps with fee-free overdrafts up to $200. And when you're using it, your next deposit then gets applied to that balance. You've got no monthly fees, no maintenance fees either. Your eligible members get that complimentary boost that can help temporarily increase a friend's spot me limit. And when you give that boost, they can boost you back to temporarily raise your limit. So enjoy the holidays while keeping your financial goals on track with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That is chime.com/NBA. Chime, it feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp North America or Stride Bank North America, members FDIC. SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Direct deposit timing depends on submission of payment file. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in SpotMe and are subject to monthly limits. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs and for OTC withdrawals. All right. Quick just chat about the NBA Cup. The schedule has been released, well, most of it anyway, and you can see where the games are. And it is, again, going to be this weird scenario when we're looking at the games. The only things we don't know is the exact games of, when the teams that lose in the knockout rounds, who they play, because we don't know who wins those games. But it'll be pretty obvious what ends up happening there. It's the teams that lose in the knockout rounds end up playing each other in the bonus game across the weekend. So in terms of the way the schedule looks for next week, which is when the knockout stuff begins, in terms of how that week plays out, there is one team next week that plays 3 games, the New York Knicks. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams that play 1 game next week. 10 teams playing 1 game next week, right? So that is the weirdness of that schedule. And with the Yahoo combined week, that means that over this combined week 7, you're going to have a bunch of teams playing 6 games, a bunch of teams playing 5 games, and a bunch of teams playing 4 games. The week starting the 16th up through to the 22nd, which is that week of, which will be Yahoo's week 8. You've got that week there where over half of the league plays 2 games. The Kings randomly have 4 games, and there's like 9 teams that play 3 games. So that's a standalone week on Yahoo where nearly everyone plays 2, and there are, I think it's 15 or 16 teams that don't play a game for the first 3 days of that week. And you've got 2 0 days in that week. The way that I liked the schedule to go was to combine the 9th through to the 22nd, and what that would have left us with is 26 teams playing 4 games and 4 teams playing 5, which to me feels like easily the best way to have done it. But on Yahoo now, you've got to have these 6 through 4 groupings, and then you're going to have the random week of the Kings playing 4 and everyone else playing 2 in that second period. Yep, that's how that all plays out. Good, we're good with that. Cool. Remembering that the only game that does not count is the NBA Cup Final, which will be played between the teams that get there, and that is on the 17th of December. And then there are no games on the Wednesday, and there are no games on that Tuesday that count for fantasy. So that is where we get the 2 zeros coming in. All right. Let us move on to the next part of this show. We're talking about some must-roster guys, and I'm not going to just throw out a million names here. When I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the next couple of weeks, and I'm looking at sort of who can be a strong top 100 player in that time, and these are 2 players that I think can do it. Now, I'm a little iffy on Goga because he sprained his ankle, but Goga Bitadze, while Paolo Banchero is out, has been putting up unbelievably good numbers. He has been fantastic defensively, he has been efficient offensively, and he is a guy to roster. And the same goes with Yves Missi. Now, Missi was bad for the beginning of the season. I don't think there's any debate about that, right? That was clear. He didn't block shots, he didn't score, his rebounds were low. He barely played even with players out. But DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum returning have helped. Now, I don't know whether that's coincidence. It might be. It might not be. But what we are also seeing is Missi going from 23 minutes a night to 31 minutes a night. And, this part's got nothing to do with DeJounte or CJ, he's blocking shots, right? Which, that's where the value comes from. He blocks shots. So at the moment, yeah, Missi is that guy. When Herb Jones is back, we'll see. They've got Herb and Ingram to come back within the next game or 2. And that might have an impact. But I still think you'll get CJ, you'll get Murray, you'll get Ingram, you'll get Trey or Herb. And that's where the thing is. Do they start small there? Who comes off the bench? I don't know. And will that mean they play those smaller lineups with either Murphy or Jones at center? And that limits what Missi does. So we've got to watch it. But for now, yeah, we're rostering Yves. And we'll go from there and we'll see. We'll make adjustments when that time comes. All right, so let's now look at some guys that are droppable. I think by now, again, most of you know what I mean when I say this, but I'm just going to put it out there just in case that you don't and you're tuning in for the first time. Welcome. Hello, how's it going? These are guys that if they're on your roster, you look at it and go, like, do I need to hold? I'm talking standard 10s and 12s. 14s and 16s, you hold on to all of these guys. All right, but if you're in a standard sort of format, you look at your roster and is this guy your worst player? And if he is, you feel all right about moving on. But that's the way to look at this. Because you'd be actually crazy in any situation to just drop somebody. Like, for no reason. You're not adding anybody. You're not gaining anything from him. You say, I'm done. He's out. Unless it's someone who's out for the season. DeAnthony Melton, Grant Williams, Taylor Hendricks. Yeah, you drop him. That's easy. But surely you would just add somebody. So if the decision comes down like you need to find a spot to add somebody, and maybe that is, hey, I'm going to try and add Quentin Grimes because people are being adding up, don't do that. These other players are back in Dallas, and that's not going to work out for Grimes, so you don't move on. But if it is, maybe I'm going to take a flyer on an injury replacement player, maybe Milk comes up as an option, then yeah, you can consider this. And you'll see a lot of similarities between a lot of these guys. Leaky Beasley, he'd been putting up good numbers, and it crashed hard last game, and that is what he does. He can have a real terrible stretch, but he could also go back to being solid. But there are so many of these guys, and there's names that I don't even have on this list. Gary Trent III, maybe. You could look at AJ Green. You could look at, honestly, there's so many, Sam Merrill, Sam Hauser. There's so many of these players who can just provide you some points and threes that when someone starts to go cold and if there's other options available, just move on. So even like this list, Malik Beasley's on this list. Klay Thompson is on this list. Buddy Hield is on this list. Under no circumstance should you be looking at those players and going, I absolutely have to have them. That's what I'm talking about. Because you look at them and go, well, what am I doing? Is there a chance they're awesome? Not really. Is there a chance they're worse than they are now? Yes. Is there a chance they're slightly better? Yes. They're just guys that can be on rosters or not. And I'm also going to put Dalton Connect into that group. Connect is, again, like a lot of these players, fairly empty for fantasy. He can score. He can hit threes. He's been getting like around a steal, which is fine, but he doesn't get assists. He's not a super high rebounder. He's not going to take many free throws at all. And all of his percentages are so far up to begin the season that there is going to be risk that it just comes back to what he did in college and then you're not actually getting anything. And then if those shots don't go in, then the Lakers will not be using him as much. I would hold Connect over Beasley, over Klay, over Hield without question. But that doesn't mean that he's a must roster player. And that's sort of what we're talking about with Droppable here. Is he must roster or is he like, yeah, fine. And a lot of these ones, if I saw them on your roster and you said, hey, what do I do? And I go, okay, yeah, that's okay. Or okay, yeah, if you want to move on, do it. What are you actually losing in that scenario? I think that's another big question. Sometimes we go, oh, maybe. But the idea of streaming hot in and getting something good in for a week and then moving on to the next one, then moving on to the next one and moving on to the next one is better than holding on to mid. And I think that's where we get to with Terry Rozier as well, who might be the most controversial one on here. And we have seen good seasons from Rozier before in Charlotte, but I think that is clouding people's opinions. I'm very open to being wrong on Rozier, and maybe he does become back to that player, but those were very specific circumstances in Charlotte. He was shot unbelievably well, better than career numbers. He would have the ball in his hands as a point guard. His usage would be sky high, especially in those scenarios where LaMelo Ball missed the majority of the last two seasons. Then he comes to Miami, and it's Bam, and it's Jimmy, and it's Tyler Hero. And Rozier sits around and goes, what do I do? And now the shots don't go in. He doesn't get assists. He doesn't handle the ball. He doesn't get usage. And now the minutes are down and he's dealing with a foot problem. So I was already way down on Rozier this season. I didn't think that he'd be a top 100 guy necessarily. Because in his time in Miami last season, he wasn't. And he's way worse than I thought. Now maybe it all turns back around for Rozier. That is distinctly possible. And I reckon out of that group of 5 names there, Beasley, Connect, Thompson, Rozier, and Hield, I would keep Rozier out of all of them. Followed closely by Connect. But I also think, especially as you push towards a 10-teamer, if Rozier's on your roster, you don't have to. I mean, you can, but you don't have to. And I think that's a lot of that discussion there. I'm going to go through this next batch of players who are guys that over the last week are available on waiver wires, but also top 100 players, and we'll talk about whether it makes sense to have them. And I didn't even mention this guy when talking about the plethora of multi-3 stream players, but Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's been hot. I think he's hit 3 threes a game over his last 4 games. That's great. But what else is going on? You ever getting a rebound, an assist? He's not scoring in bulk. The steals have been pretty good. But it's not enough for me to look at him and go, that's awesome and sick. I love that. Can't wait to have you on the team, KCP. No. So he's okay. He's been solid. But it's on the back of shooting that's made a lot of sense or for your team, and you can't trust that as you move forward. Spencer Dinwiddie's also been ridiculously good. I have no idea where it's come from. That's not denying that it happened, because it did. It very clearly happened, and that's cool, but I don't care. He's a 20-minute-a-night player that can go cold at it. And the thing is that's weird about this, look at Dinwiddie's hot streak. The little game before that, he shot 8%. And then went, all right, cool, we're off now. I'm like, okay, that's random, but it happened, right? But now Klay is back. Luka is back. Kyrie is there. Najee Marshall's going to be back. Dinwiddie's going to do nothing, so don't worry about this. The artist formerly known as Torian Prince. Hey, throw him into the KCP, Gary Trent, AJ Green, Sam Merrill, Sam Hauser, Buddy Hield, Terry Rozier, bunching. It's all the same. Prince is shooting, I think he's almost 50% from 3 this season, which is going to cool off. Eventually, Chris Middleton will apparate in front of us. Apparate? Is that the right word? I don't think it is. I think apparate means disappear like a ghost, doesn't it? Maybe he's going to reverse apparate. You know what? Dictionary time. No, I was right. Apparate. To appear magically. There you go. Bang. Nailed it. Got it. Maybe Chris Middleton does apparate in front of us and appears, and then Prince is cooked. For now, he's been good. The best name on this list, I think, or the most interesting name on this list is Marcus Smart. Now, I think, shot 0% last game, but he's getting steals, he's getting assists, he's playing 25 minutes. He's not going to be a game changer. He's not going to be for everybody. And there's going to be some very, very bad shooting nights. But the guys that are coming back eventually, like Vince Williams and GG Jackson, I don't really think that impacts Smart that much, and they're a long way off still. So I think Smart probably is an okay guy to have. Julian Champagny has been solid for most of the season, but there are a few warning signs. Sohan is back and played limited minutes. Vassell played 28 minutes last game. Somebody is losing out. Is it him, or is it Steph Castle, or is it both? I love what Champagne can do, but it's also possible that he's a 24-minute-a-night player, and that's not going to be enough, but he has been good. We roll with it until it dies. And the last one that's been very good in that time frame is DeAndre Hunter. Now, you're well aware, I'm assuming by now, that I'm just not a big DeAndre Hunter guy. For fantasy, I don't really believe in him long term. I think eventually the knees are a consistent and persistent problem. For him, there is a player that they drafted number 1 overall that starts ahead of him, and Hunter has been, without question, he has been really good. He is averaging 19 points a game this season. The problem is he does nothing else. He's not, he's doing the mythical Ryan Anderson, where it's 2 or fewer combined assists, steals, and blocks. He's at exactly 2. And over the last 7 games, he is at 1.7 combined assists, steals, and blocks with under 4 rebounds. He's shooting 92 from the line, which is probably not a real number. He is shooting, 56 on his twos and 42% from 3 for the season, which is going to cool off. And the usage is sitting at 23, and he's been a sub-20 guy in the past. So excuse me if I just don't believe in DeAndre Hunter long-term, because I don't. Because it does require big usage, elevated shooting, and I don't also trust the health. Cool. That's where we're at with him. We've got a couple more little bits and pieces with waiver wire stuff to come back and talk about, and we will do that. But today's episode is, of course, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Yes, get ready to tackle all of the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to do your live betting on the NFL. You open it up, you're watching the game on the big screen there at the bar with the fellas. You open up the FanDuel app and you can see the live betting options. And on that same screen, you can see all of the live stats. You can see all of the live play-by-play. So if you're getting drowned out at a Buffalo Wild Wings, well, you can see it all, the information right in front of you to place those live bets. And if you win that first $5 bet, it doesn't even have to be a live bet. It can just be any bet. Your first $5 bet, you'll get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. So go to FanDuel.com and get started with those $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, let's go to the next part of the waiver wire show here, and these are some guys that have some value due to injuries. Now, it's not an exclusive list. These are just some names I think are worth mentioning. We got the update today that Kevin Durant is going to be out at least a week with a sprained ankle. Another lower body injury for Durant, and he just sort of can't get out of his own way at this point, and at his age, you feel like it's going to be more than a week. And you guys know that I faded Durant very hard this season, and I believe if I look at my rolling 2-week ranking list, he has been... Let me have a look where he's been. I know it hasn't been good. I know that much. Let's have a look. Kevin Durant, over the last little period of time, he's rolling 2-week ranks. Let's just go back from today. 57th, 39th, 41st, 44th, 34th, 32, 34. Yeah, not good. And now we're out again. The replacement is possibly Grayson Allen, but also possibly not. Because if you're replacing him with Grayson Allen, that means Bradley Beal is your power forward. And I don't think that's a particularly good way to go. So it could easily be Osa Ighodaro playing the 4. It could be Royce O'Neal. It could be Ryan Dunn. Allen, to me, is probably the best fantasy option here, but I think it's going to be relatively messy, and you just throw Grayson Allen into the pile of 3-point streamers that are available. Malcolm Brogdon, Keyshawn George, and Corey Kispert, they all got hurt in Washington. Knees and ankles. I don't know how long they're going to be out, but Bud Carrington played 36 minutes last game. Now, I do like Bub quite a bit. I do worry there are going to be usage and efficiency issues at times this season as a rookie guard. But for now, if you want to go grab Bub, do it. I think it makes sense. Darius Garland is dealing with a head issue. I don't believe there's any information at this point on Garlo and the status there. But if he does miss, I actually think Karis LeVert might be slightly preferable. Do you say preferable or preferable to Ty Jerome? I'm not sure they'll start Jerome and Mitchell together. They have in the past, but that doesn't mean that Jerome gets big minutes or anything along those lines. I think I do like LeVert. Yeah, we don't have the update on Garland yet. I think I do like LeVert a little bit more. Jerome started a game when Garland was out on the 20th of November, but I also believe, LeVert was out in that one. And he started a game, Jerome, on the 17th of November that Mitchell was out, but Garland played and Levert played 32 off the bench in that game. So, and Merrill was out in that one as well. So, yeah, it's a little bit up and down. Jerome has had those starts. They don't like to start Levert, but if he does play 30 minutes, I think he's probably preferable to milk in that spot. Ben Shepherd remains out. Aaron Nesmith remains out. So TJ McConnell's getting his 24, 25 minutes. And Empire is still on a minutes restriction. So we look at McConnell and he's usable as a stream guy. With Alex Caruso out, Cason Wallace appears to be establishing himself as a 30-minute-a-night player. Now, it's been very hard to trust those guys on the Thunder so far this season, but Wallace is doing it at the moment. I think he's a solid 14-team league guy, and he's probably worth a 12-team look, but Caruso returning will have an impact there. And the last one is KJ Simpson. We talked about Vasa Micic earlier on. Simpson got the minutes last game. He delivered 9 assists. Now, he also shot 25%, which was horrible. But if you're in a deeper format, I think we look at Simpson. I don't think we're doing it in 12s at this stage, but with Ball and Man out, well, Simpson does at least move into some level of relevancy here that we can pay some attention to. I've got 6 more names I want to talk about here before we end things off. And Ochai Agbaji has been very up and down throughout his career. He's had more good than bad this season. And at the moment, they're starting Scotty Barnes at point guard, and that is enabling Agbaji. I don't even know why I went to Agbaji first, but he's not the first name on the list. We'll talk about Juice in a sec. Agbaji is providing okay numbers. I don't trust it. It feels like he needs to have these 5 of 7 shooting nights to really get it going. Otherwise, he's more of a defensive stream guy. But if the minutes are there, we're a little bit more interested in Agbaji, and at the moment they are. The other name there is Juice McBride, and you know my thoughts on McBride. I'll continue to say it. I think he's totally okay to roster in 12-team leagues. Not because of necessarily what he's doing, but he's doing enough as maybe like a 160 level player, which is okay. The thing with him is there is such a very clear path that if Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, or Hart all get injured, he's going to play 40 minutes. And then you're going to run at 60, top 60. And this is not a situation where he's the 250th best player and you're holding and waiting for an injury, because that is silly to do. But if he is providing close enough to fringe value, which I believe that Juice McBride is, and then there is an injury where it elevates him through the roof, yeah, I actually think that's worth doing. The next name there is John Kuminga, who was good enough last game. The problem is that was a game with no Draymond Green. I've got no problem adding Kuminga at the moment in case the Green injury lingers, but if Green returns, which he will at some point, does Kuminga go back to the bench and playing 22 minutes? Possible. It's possible. So he's okay, but just be cautious. Got to throw a couple of rookies in here, 3 of them actually. Matas Buzelis was very good last game. And Billy Donovan's like, yeah, he forced his way, he earned the minutes. That's great, Bill. But, like, are you going to play him now instead of Ayo Dosunmu? Are you going to play him instead of Torrey Craig? Are you going to play him over him? I don't know. Buzelis is going to be frustrating with shooting percentages, but he's a good defensive stats guy. And if he's a 20-plus minute player, then I don't mind the stats, because guess what? Pat Williams is not good. And Buzelis might not be good either, but he's got a chance to be better than Pat Williams. So he's at least on the watch list. He's at least a deeper league option Matas. And the next one is Stephon Castle. Castle. The minutes are great for Castle. The production's not. He has the occasional good game, but he's not doing enough at all. But he's rostered in far too many leagues. And now they are healthy. Yeah, they're healthy. Sohan's back. Vassell's minutes are up. Is Castle going to keep starting? I don't know. He might, but I'm also at a spot where I don't think I care. I don't think he's worth holding on to. And I think people are holding on to Castle in way too many spots. And the last name there is, again, we've got to service you guys. We've got to look at the double Onyx, Platinum, Diamond, Titanium leagues. Isaac Jones is playing as the backup power forward with Trey Lyles out. He is playing better than Jay Crowder, and his efficiency and scoring stuff is unbelievably good. This is just very deep league stuff, but I'm trying to cater to everybody here. And this is a name that I'm certain that nobody has rostered. If you have Isaac Jones rostered, maybe you're in a triple Onyx league. Let me know. Onyx. Let me know if you've got Isaac Jones on a roster. Just a name to watch out for, because again, this will slide under the radar for a lot of people. And probably not, because I just keep saying it over and over and over again, but he is doing very well, and I like the trajectory of where things are going for Isaac Jones. By the way, Isaac Jones sounds like he should play for St. Kilda. Guys, that will bring us to the end of a waiver wire show. I was going to say special edition, but this is when we normally do the waiver wire show. I just didn't think I was going to be able to. So hit the thumb, leave a like, drop your comments down below. Remember, just be good to yourselves. Celebrate the wins. Commiserate the losses, but celebrate the wins. At least balance it out, because you always do a good thing. I found this hard to do so much in my life. Anytime that something would go wrong, but like, Josh, you should have got it perfect. But then when you do something perfect or do good, you never acknowledge it. So it's just constantly bringing yourself down. Bring yourself up. Bring others up. I think it leads to better outcomes. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.